Hello lovelies, and welcome to this week's wrap up. My name's Alya and I'm so glad you stopped by. Today's video is all about the shaper, and I'm going to show you how your shaper, or whether you have one at all, affects your tichel. So you can see me play around and experiment with it so that you don't have to, and you can just choose a position or a shaper that suits you without having to go through all the fuss and muss of mucking around with them. Let's get into it. Okay, so I've just changed to a very simple thin kind of linen-y feel tichel. It's completely flatly wrapped. I haven't even properly wrapped it. It's just sort of sitting on my head right now, just to show you the general profile of my hair and my head just as it is without anything. Okay, so I've got long hair, but it's pretty flat, pretty thin, so it's not really doing much at the back there, and it's just no hair tie or anything wrapped up in itself. So that's all we have to start with. And what I'm going to introduce is this fancy schmancy bobble. I got this online years and years ago. You can still get them on eBay, but Rapunzel has something very similar. You can find them on Instagram as well at various shops. All it is there's a bunch of velvety kind of rope. Mine's definitely seen better days. And it's just all tied around and a bit of elastic. You can even probably make this with just a long bit of this stuff, and then all you need is a little bit of elastic like this. I don't know if you can see it there, that black elastic in there, and just wrap it around like crazy, and you end up with this. I do have to say, this fabric, no matter how you have it, whether it be for a non-slip headband or for the front of your hat shaper, so a shaper that's sort of put on your whole head, or whether you use it on your elastic, on your scrunchie, or on this type of thing, it is the best fabric. It doesn't snag your hair. It feels and looks like hair texture underneath the tichel, and also it doesn't allow the tichel to slide around. It's quite grippy to both your head but also to the tichel. So overall comfort and practicality. The very first step is with this being tied around my hair. It's just sitting on the other side of this, just tied up really high up as a bun and nothing more. You definitely have to keep in mind, when you are using shapewear, you do have to allow for more material to go to covering the actual shaper. So if a tichel is normally too long for you or something like that, or you have to fold it heaps of times, allow for the fact that you'll be folding it less because you've got all this volume to deal with now. So I've just got it gathered up at the back, and I've just brought it up to either side. And this is kind of what my friends call the Nefertiti kind of look of tichel. I'm going to wrap this tichel the exact same way every time, just to show what it's like. Let's put these away. Doesn't really matter, it's not staying for long. But this is the kind of look you get with it. You can adjust to be more central or more to the side, whatever you like, but this is the kind of look you get with it. Very much Simpson vibes for me. Sure, could be Egyptian queen too. I don't mind, whatever your association is. But the good thing about this is it will definitely stay put. You do not feel it, because on your actual head, all you've got is one thin layer of scarf and nothing else. It's very comfortable. It's really great for warmer weather because your actual head and neck are completely exposed. So that's really great, good airflow. But your hair's out of the way. It's a really kind of effective look. You can definitely, add things to it to style it up. I have a whole video about brochures and whatnot, so check that out too. You can do really cool things with it. You can definitely add more scarves as well, because you have the volume to play around with. This next step is still really high, same hair tie situation, but I've got it further back on my head, so I'm not sitting it up here like I had before. I've got it back about 5 or 6 centimeters further along my head, so it's just sitting at the very sort of peak of my head there. I'm going to start at the very same position. I do have to add that with this type of wrapping style, you don't have to worry about anything being even or how you place it on your head. This sort of thing works no matter what you do to it. It's very fail safe. So same as before, we're bringing it up, wrapping it over, making sure there's no bumps and lumps, and around. Exactly the same as before, finding somewhere to hide the tails. And there you go, you've got that same kind of look with this one, because you still do get a lot of elongation, especially I'm wearing a white tichel, you're going to get a lot of, you know, visual effect from that as well. But same kind of concept, except this time the back of my head is pretty covered up. I've only got maybe a hand's worth of space underneath between the tichel and my underneath the tichel to my neck, so that doesn't really allow for as much airflow, but also it kind of does dim down how much height you're having. It still has the same amount of volume though, because we're using the same volumizer. So if you wanted to do a look with several scarves, this would be still very, very, very practical. It would work well, but you wouldn't have such Marge Simpson's vibes. You'd have a lot more of that Egyptian kind of elongation. This time the bun is right at the back of my head. Now between the bun and my neck I've only got about 3 fingers, and I've got all this space along the top. So same thing, up and around, find somewhere to hide the little tails so that they are both secure and also out of the way. You can also do a little flippy thing somewhere and leave one down for this one, really cute. Okay. So the exact same wrap, and already from the front view you've got a very different look. You definitely don't have that kind of height, that kind of vertical real estate as you do with the other looks, but you do have the same amount of volume. Sound like a broken record, right? So if you look from the side, you still have this large amount of space to play with. If you were looking to do a look that involved a few different scarves, you most certainly could. This is just to prove a point. This is by no means the style I'm going for, but you know, it gives you enough space to play. What if you only had the one shaper? You're new to the journey, you don't have much, you do want volume, but you don't want a whole Egyptian queen. Well, you can still use something like this and create less volume, believe it or not. The same thing would go for shapers. With shapers you can just take the stuffing out potentially, or flatten it to your head a little bit by pressing the scarf down. They're a little bit more, I guess, malleable. With this you've got to get creative. So what I was doing before is actually tying it around my hair twice and using it a bit like a scrunchie. And look how much volume I get when I do that. There is always the option of not tying it twice. Then you're only using half the volume there. So there it is on my head now. Yes, it does cover more horizontal space, obviously, but just like with shapers, you can actually just scrunch them because it's really soft velvet material. The same wrap as before. Might even tie it off this time. And same thing, trying to find somewhere to hide the tail. And there it is. Could be a little bit neater, but that's okay for these purposes. You definitely get a very different profile with the shaper being a little wider, which I actually do prefer sometimes. It's not as pokey. And you look at this shape that it's giving you. It still gives you the volume to have a few different designs happening. But it's not taking away at all from the overall feel of it being a head as opposed to a cone. So it's definitely a little bit more natural looking than that more conical shape. But both definitely have their place depending on what design of tichel you want to be wearing. A very, very practical use of the exact same shaper. And of course the same will apply whether it's at the top, in the middle where it is now, or a bit lower down. Okay, we're going down. Don't try this part at home, folks. It does pull your hair a little when you're doing that. Just close that over again. Okay, so the exact same thing, but now it's much lower on my head. There's barely any room between the shaper and my neck now, but just to show you. So definitely another version, or of course it could be sitting all the way up here, just like it was before, but again, you don't get that height. You definitely do get more width with this style. Okay, I've got this hot mess on my head at the moment for a very good reason. I want to try and demonstrate what you can do if you don't have one of these or one of these, where you can just pop it on your head and you have a natural bump all ready to go. No fuss, no muss. This is actually really comfortable, really great. So what do you do if you don't have the comfortable and great or the poofy and natural looking shapers? And all you have is, let's pretend this is my hair for just a second. I know it's hard to do, but let's just pretend. Join along. Now I've done this a million times, even though I have the shapers. Sometimes it's hot, or sometimes I've been washing them or can't find them because, you know, sometimes they're in my filming room, sometimes they're in my bedroom, sometimes they've been known to be in my car because it gets maybe hot or bothersome at some point in the day and I rewrap. Whatever the case, they do travel sometimes, and I just can't get my hands on them, or they're buried under a thing of scarves that I've prepared for my next video. Whatever the case, they do sometimes find themselves out of access. So what do you do then? You take a scarf, any scarf will do. I would not use a pashmina though. I would use either something thin like this or something like what I'm actually wearing for hair, or the alike. So something cottony, stretchy, maybe something made out of this type of fabric will do as well. And what you do is you put your hair up in a ponytail. If you have short hair, long hair, it doesn't matter. Even if you don't have hair, it doesn't matter. So you put it up in a ponytail with a hair tie, hopefully. And then what you do is you wrap this around. Okay, and around, and around, until you end up with this sort of a situation. Obviously works a lot better with hair. With this, you get that same kind of wobbly effect as what you would with this thing tied up twice. See, they're practically the same volume and shape. The other thing that I sometimes do, actually rather often do, is take a scarf folded this way. So this is a square scarf, so that's why it's folded like this. But the idea is just to have it in half. So then what you do is you put it underneath your tail and start braiding. You do have to have a decent amount of hair for this though, in terms of length, because otherwise what are you going to braid? If you have just a short ponytail, it would work. You're just going to end up with a very short braid. And you only braid it a little bit. And then you take the 3 braids together and just wrap them around. And then what you do is you take the 2 ends of the actual scarf, split them up, take one of the ends back around and tie it off. Like a tiny little knot, not a big old bow tie or a thick knot you can't undo, just tie it off. And this is actually quite true to life. I also end up having hair sticking out everywhere. You can either put little bobby pins to tack it away in place, tackling away, or you can just leave it hanging because there'll be a scarf going over it anyway and it's just underneath. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be volume. Good thing about this way is you can do a big loose bun, you can do a very tight high bun, you can use a thicker scarf to get more volume, a thinner scarf to get less volume. You don't have to braid it, you can just twist your hair around a scarf, they'll give you a different volume again. So all of these things will allow you room for adjustment. Okay my lovelies, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial all about volume and different ways to play around with it. I hope that it's useful to you and your wrapping journey. I hope you loved the different tichel looks we came up with using the same wrap with the different heights and different shaper positions. I'd love to see how it looks on your tichel design. Don't forget to like and comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. There's usually a midweek wrap up most weeks. There's a special segment every weekend that's really close to my heart, all about eye health and makeup. So definitely hit that subscribe button to see more of that. It's also Instagram, so head over there and have a look what's going on in everyday life. Wherever you are around the world, I hope you're staying safe and happy and healthy, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Bye!